back, and at the risk of having a pattern of saying, another significant absence of about a week because I shoot for every other day. There are reasons, multiple reasons, but given some of my recent videos and posts I've received, which I appreciate, I am sad to report it is not for happy means, though I was seemingly at the precipice of happiness in, for those of you that are familiar with my videos, one of my, three major things I shoot for in life. Potentially it was the most elusive of the three, the one where timing is a factor, something I do not excel at, something that intelligence and integrity cannot overcome. But we are going to talk about patterns today, and it is something INFJs deal with a lot. Other people do too, but we tend to notice it more because it has to do with patterns. And we seem to be very unlucky people, except for we do, and I'm probably one of the best examples of this, we do tend to have this ability to escape severe injury or even death. Like, we tend to beat the odds and live through things that we're not supposed to live through. Like in my case, getting shot and losing half my blood. I lived, and I walk without a limp, and I'm not supposed to. Things of that nature, or having more concussions than one's supposed to have without permanent brain injury. But the theme of this is eternal recurrence. And eternal recurrence is, a Nietzschean, Friedrich Nietzsche, idea that basically you are damned. It goes to determinism and fatalism. And this goes to kind of builds on my edge of the coin videos, which has been a concept I've been obsessed with for years out of necessity, because I am forever longing for that coin to land on its edge, because it is the only way things change. If it lands on heads or tails, the pattern perpetuates because the game is rigged again and again and again and again and again. Get it? So with eternal recurrence, it's basically the pattern that you are in, you are locked in. The places change, the people change. Basically, look at it as a story. The characters change, the set changes, the plot remains largely the same with only minor deviations. Part of the reason why I'm, so for major change and have no time for little tweaks around the edges, because I know firsthand that nothing really changes. Little window dressing, little, false nicety here and there, but the core of everything, sadly, it does not. So, let's talk about eternal recurrence and patterns. In my case, if you've been watching my video from the early days, what is that eternal recurrence? Well, that eternal recurrence is that I never get a fair shot at anything I deem worthwhile. So the moment I want something, the moment I think that, it's like, I really want this to happen, it can be professionally, it can be romantically. Those are the big two. So we'll focus on those. Outside forces will, unprovoked, even in many cases having nothing to do with them, will conspire to destroy that right as I'm about to get what I want. Everybody can see that it's happening in any aspect, and it'll basically be bomb the hell through no action or inaction of my own, simply by the machinations of third parties seeking to destroy it, not for vengeance, not because, they selfishness, greed, they want it for themselves, just simply because they want me to lose. The whole Arlington County fire thing is my best example because there's news stories about it that you can see for yourself. As victims of narcissistic abuse, we tend to over-explain ourselves and always want to provide incontrovertible evidence. And with eternal recurrence, there's often double standards and hypocrisy. The one locked into this pattern of maddening eternal recurrence is always, I don't use that word much, always held to a much harsher standard than those around. Yes, it is a pattern I cannot break. It's maddening at many times because it does make you question the why try, why want anything. It's why I so rarely do anymore, particularly the past few years, because every once in a while you convince yourself that it's like, no, this is so locked in that, there's no force on earth that could, destroy this now, especially if most people are like, what the hell's taking you so long? Like, we all see this. What are you, blind? Yes. But, or I'm already building my next bit of eternal recurrence. I'll talk about that in another video. Conversation I had with a detective who is not the first time this detective had this conversation with me, but he made very, very, very good points. And, big change, all about it. Full bore into the abyss. With eternal recurrence, the one locked in that maddening pattern is constantly seeking major change in some aspect of their life to make their life better. INFJs, something major to make your life better, maybe get out of that NITI loop, but the pattern of eternal recurrence will throw you back into that, at least for a time. So there's that trade-off there. You'll be in part at times in a moment of contentment, and at some times, and this may be a witch thing, we're in our heads, you may be thinking of what you wish to manifest, and it'll begin to manifest exactly how you envisioned it. The who, the where, the when, all that kind of stuff. And out of nowhere, yes. And then, of course, being INFJs, when someone does that to you unprovoked, you lash out in righteous anger. Particularly because people who typically do it are, if not narcissists, certainly narcissistic, and, have things they wish to not be made public. And it is our duty to pull that mask off and let the world see them for who they truly are. And that in part could be their reason to come at us, because they can see that we see them for who they truly are. And could be why they want us kept down or swept from the board, so to say, so that they can perpetuate their self-image of delusion and not have to fear being exposed. But yeah, the pattern of eternal recurrence, when the same pattern repeats time and time again, and you take steps to learn from past manifestations of the pattern, you do things differently, you do your due diligence. Obviously, in anything, we're going to overthink, and we're going to, what does intuition say? Put pieces of the puzzle together and think things through before we decide to take any action in any place in our life that could potentially cause, major change, because we're always seeking it, usually. I don't know. Any INFJs out there that are like, no, I'm good, I got what I want. Comment if you're in that situation. Let me know you exist. I don't know. I I've been there briefly, but briefly. Yeah. So that seems to be, part of it. It's kind of one of the maddening things of being an INFJ is that we see these patterns and we think we can, intuition our way like out of this maze that has no exit. It's like, if I do this, it goes bad. If I do this, it goes bad. 1 in 6,000, you say. To land on the coin to land on its edge. Did it land on its edge? It's about due. So be aware of this. I know this video is vague and esoteric, and a lot of you probably won't even make it to the end. And for those of you that do, you have my empathy, because to understand this is to have suffered it. This goes back to the main point of eternal recurrence. Do you curse fate? Do you embrace fate? Well, neither. Seeking the edge of the coin is to, in fact, want that third option, to choose free will. However, choosing free will, even if the coin is to land on its edge, the probability that, let's say that probability happens, but there's always a cost of putting some, way out of the box free will notion into effect. So in that case, know what the cost is, and are you willing to pay the price? Depends on what it is and what you want and what it's valued to you in that situation. I cannot tell you specifically what you value or what price you're willing to pay. Perhaps it changes based on the situation or how many scars and battles you fought. Who knows? But yes, be aware. Eternal recurrence can be maddening, but do not embrace it as fate. Curse it if you must. We all spend time doing that. Can be cathartic for a time, but in the end, only by that minute flicker of probability of seeking free will, seeking that third option, a path that is long and winding. I've been walking it for some time, years. Only then can you set yourself free. You might even be at some point where you think you're about to be free and you're not, or at least find a door that leads to a different part of the maze, or a light perhaps that can lead you out. Maybe it's, I'm gonna say it's a mirage, but no, the light was there. But maybe somebody put out that light. See if you can still find your way over to where it was shining from. Who knows what's over there? It's dark now, you can't see, but there was light there. So maybe you should go over there anyway, instead of navigating your way through a dark room, which as a trained firefighter, I'm pretty good at. So I hope this was enlightening, or perhaps some of you are like, oh, he's lost it and he's way too deep in his head. No, just be aware, for those of you that are familiar with this, it is sadly a cumulative thing. Every time the eternal recurrence pattern perpetuates itself, it tears open all the wounds of the previous events that essentially played out the same way, but with different players. So it brings all that all that you have lost, perhaps for decades, back to the surface again. And really get in your head about your will to fight. What's the point? Is it all predetermined?